Now, if you know the difference between a Klingon and a Vulcan, love a certain Time Lord in his TARDIS, and enjoy dressing as your favourite sci-fi character, then the SF Ball is probably for you. It's a chance for fans to meet some of the stars of their favourite TV series, debate who was the best captain of the Enterprise, and raise money for charity all in one place. So we beamed our reporter Richard Stringer in to find out more.
The Sci-Fi Ball is a chance for fans of all genres of science fiction and fantasy to raise money for a good cause, as well as get up close with the stars of their favourite shows. Game of Thrones, Red Dwarf, Doctor Who and of course Star Trek were all represented at this year's event.
One of the shows I do is called Red Dwarf, and that is a comedy set on board a spaceship many zillions of years in the future, so that qualifies as science fiction.
We all get together with fans of the various programmes and have a wild weekend, dressing up in costumes and asking silly questions, and there's a heart to this, and it's set up by fans for fans.
This has been running 23 years, and we were running a club 4 years before that at university, because we started the Sci-Fi Society at Bournemouth University, and we opened to the public about a year after we were running the Sci-Fi Society. Got 150 people the first time we opened, and then it went to 300, 400 people a month. So we then decided that we'd run a convention, and there were no Comic-Cons at that point. When we first started, I'd lost my husband to cancer. And so we went to the local Macmillan unit at Christchurch Hospital, and we raised money for them for several years, and then it changed, and I happened to go to a presentation in Bournemouth where they had the Teenage Cancer Trust, and I loved it, and I took it back to the crew and I said, I think this is our new charity, and we all agreed, and we've been raising money for them ever since.
This is the medical team that we played 4 years on Star Trek, so
it's really appropriate.
Yeah.
That she playing the doctor, I playing her head nurse, and actually what's lovely about this particular year is that this is a reunion for us, and we have never, with all the conventions between us that we've never done a convention together. So the fact that it should be at this one, that benefits a charity for teen cancer, it makes so much sense that this is the medical team from the Starship Enterprise that.
But unfortunately, we did not bring our tricorders.
It is inclusive. It's somewhere that I always wanted, and we discussed and agreed that it should be somewhere that's inclusive to everybody, no matter who you are, what your abilities are, what your background. It doesn't matter, race, colour, creed, religion, who cares? We have a commonality.
I was 16 when Doctor Who started, okay? So I was a geek, Hartnell, Troughton, they were my doctors, and I grew up with it. So I'm used to being on both sides of the fence, as I think most people who work in sci-fi have been. They've grown up with various sci-fi genres, and they know what it's like. So we're talking the same language. It's like being part of a giant extended family. It's great to have been part of that on both sides of the camera.
And who's your money on who the next Doctor's going to be?
Somebody asked me this before. I'm just being very blasé about this, and I say I'd like one season with Brian Blessed followed by one season with Miriam Margolyes, and I think you wouldn't know the difference, and I think it would be great. I don't know. I really. I'm sure they've probably got their own ideas already, I don't know whether they're going to stay older or go younger, or whether it's going to be a woman or not, or anything like that. These are debates which are kind of meaningless, really, because what will happen will happen. So you can shout your favourite from the rooftops, and it's either set in stone already, or it ain't going to happen.
And any plans for yourself to go back in the show?
I'd love to go back in the show, yeah. I'd really, I think Julian Bleach has done a great job of taking Davros on, and the last story I thought particularly good.
It's just making the family bigger.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting bigger every time a new film comes out or a new show or whatever it is. I think it's never been about, am I going to be part of that? Yeah. It's more, now the family is growing even further, and the whole experience continues. Yeah. Well, it is otherworldly. It's big. We're talking the ends of the universe. So I suppose that has something to do with the fact that it's not contained, it's not limited, it's not boundaries. It's the antithesis of that. So to me, it makes perfect sense that it would just be huge.
I also think that compared to it's not a dystopian view of the world. I think that to me is something in particular that Roddenberry had a vision for, something that was hopeful. You thought that there would still be a future, and that people could get along and work together even if they disagreed, that you could somehow find ways, like the Federation did, of working together and grappling with really, really enormous problems, and accepting new worlds, exploring them but not taking them over, not dominating them. That concept of the Prime Directive is a very powerful, unique vision, and I think that's why it's lasted as long. Frankly, I think you can see the different permutations of it, but the fact that it's a really good example of how to make a better future.
And for people at home that are real big movie fans as well, Gates, obviously I understand that you had a part in working on the Labyrinth movie with David Bowie.
I did, but I also, that was a year of my life, actually. It was quite an experience. It also was great to live in London. I had lived in London one other time directing something, but I was in awe of David Bowie, and to be able to teach him how to waltz was, well, he probably knew, but he was pretending, he was being nice to me, so I could say, no, let's try it again, David. I mean, he was such an extraordinary artist, and I think I was, in awe of him. But it was wonderful. And Jennifer Connelly, how talented. But I also worked with all the creatures. I was there working with the puppeteers and the creatures, so it was a real learning curve for me, but it was exciting.
We spend the entire year working on this. I mean, quite honestly, that's all we ever talk about between us. When we come up with silly game shows, we come up with little ideas, because every year the theme changes. So we work that theme into the whole weekend. Yeah. So we make sure that the hall is decorated, the tables are done in a particular way, the game shows are run in a particular way. So quite honestly, we very rarely talk to one another about normal stuff. It's just, what are we doing for the ball next?
In fact, we're planning for 2 years hence, because of course it'll be our Silver Jubilee.
We've met with Jamie Anderson a couple of years ago, and it was very, very popular with the attendees then, so we thought it would be a great idea for a themed evening. And having seen the amount of costumes and stuff that we even had one girl turn up as one of the trees from Thunderbirds, so that her big move was to literally fall over every time Thunderbird 2 came along. And once I'd explained this to some of our guests who were doing the judging of the fancy dress, they thought it was brilliant. She got a special mention. And we also had another guy dressed up as the Mysteron symbol from the Mysterons, so he was completely in black with 2 green discs that moved around his body. I mean, you can't get better than that for fancy dress. Perfect stuff.
The evenings are a big part of the event, with guest hosts for the entertainment.
Revisiting the 80s down memory lane, with voices basically that I covered, maybe in Spitting Image and beyond. A few little anecdotes in my little stint last night. The first voice I kind of did was Mr. B, because just to sort of give it a quick blast.
As you can see, I'm just about to get on a helicopter and go and do the remake of All Creatures Great and Small.
We did try and get a revival of Mr. Brittus during that time when Porridge and Are You Being Served and all those were shown. And we got as far as a treatment, which I thought was fine. I mean, it ticked all the 21st century boxes. But for some reason, what I've heard is that the one writer of the original 2 who still want to do the British Empire, it didn't tick all his boxes, so it didn't go any further. But I know the commissioner at the time was keen to get it going, and I am. Do you know what? That's the question now that is most popular, than even any Red Dwarf questions, and that is, is there going to be more British? So I'm going to make it more and more. Not only have I written it on my list of things to do, but I've highlighted it, and now I'm going to put it in bold. So it really is going to jump to the top. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get on the phone to people, and hopefully we can get British on, and hopefully sooner rather than later, But
of course, you couldn't turn down the opportunity to work with Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider.
Well, I couldn't, no, and I'm sure she feels the same about me. As Chris Berry, I'm not doing it unless Chris is doing it. So, yeah, I was. It was a joy to work with the lady, and I hope she learnt a lot from me. She's obviously gone on to other things since then. But no, she's brilliant actress, and it was a great experience to work in a big movie like that.
The ball raised over £5,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust and returns next year.
I am Mr. Brittus for That's Solent. Yeah.